We've been getting some questions about what max heart rate says about your fitness or your fitness level. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of talk about the difference between max heart rate and resting heart rate and what each of those kind of says in conjunction with either your fitness level or your recovery.
Really interesting when it comes to heart rate. This took me a long time to understand that your max heart rate actually can have a genetic component. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with how fit you are. We did a lot of max heart rate testing when I was training for the games, and the biggest thing was, so we knew exactly what zone I should be in when we were trying to hit specific stimulus. My max heart rate is gonna be different than Patrick's max heart rate. It's gonna be different than my mom's. So knowing your max heart rate so you can train in these zones appropriately is gonna be key. We're gonna dive into that a little bit more, and also resting heart rate the rest of this video.
So when we're talking about our max heart rate, or the peak that our heart rate is gonna get in any workout or anything that we're doing, that number is not correlated to our fitness level. So the fitter we get, our max heart rate is not going to go up. But it's still an important number to know because there's a lot of information that we can get from it. If you don't know what your max heart rate is and you want to know that number, there's quite a few different ways to get it. Kind of the least accurate and the easiest is gonna be to take 220 minus your age. Not particularly accurate, but it can give you a rough estimate. Something that's gonna be a little bit more accurate is doing some repeats. Since we're not in the lab, 3 500-meter rows with a 2-minute rest between, or 3 400-meter runs with a 2-minute rest between. So what we're gonna do is take the average of our 3 max heart rates for each one of those. So if it hits 185, 190, 187, we'll average those out and that will be our max heart rate. Since again, our chest strap can move, whatever we're using may not be the most accurate, we're gonna use that as our average. And with that number, there's a lot of important information that we can get. And we can also know our zone so that we're working in correct zones, whether that's zone 2 or whatever kind of training that we're looking for, we can be sure that we're in the right zone to get the benefits of the style of training that we're looking for.
One thing when testing your max heart rate, it's really important to make sure that you're testing your cardiovascular fitness and your heart rate, not necessarily the lactic buildup that you're experiencing in your legs. So if our legs go first, then we know that we probably don't have a true max heart rate because we didn't really completely tax that cardiovascular system the way that we wanted to. When you're looking at your zones, you have usually 5 zones. So if you've ever heard of someone referencing zone 2, zone 3, it's a zone in relation to your max heart rate. So our zone 1 is usually 50 to 60%, and that's a really easy effort where we're 50 to 60% of that max heart rate. Zone 2 is gonna be slightly higher. It's gonna be that 60 to 70%, and that's super beneficial for that aerobic base building with the way your body processes the mitochondria and how you can build that aerobic base. It's gonna be a conversational run. It's gonna be maintaining nose breathing, being able to continue breathing through your nose where we don't have to switch to mouth breathing, and it's a relatively easy effort. Zone 3 is gonna get a little bit higher. It's gonna be 70 to 80-ish%. Zone 4 is gonna be that 80 to 90%, so that's really our threshold. We are working really hard. We can't sustain that for very long. And then zone 5 is gonna be closer up to that VO2 max, which is gonna be that 90 to 100%. So when we talk about 5 zones, that is how those zones are broken up. This video is sponsored by Element. Did you know that when you sweat, the primary electrolyte lost is sodium? When sodium's not replaced, it's common to experience symptoms such as muscle fatigue and cramps. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. It contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. It can help prevent and eliminate muscle cramps, fatigue, headaches, sleeplessness, and other symptoms related to electrolyte deficiency. Element is formulated to help everyone with their electrolyte needs. That includes moms, dads, fitness enthusiasts, athletes, and it's perfectly suited for those of you on a keto or low-carb diet. Right now, Element is offering my subscribers, that's you all, a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 single-serving packets free with any Element order. This is a great way to try all 8 flavors or share with a salty friend. Get yours at drinkelement.com/Christy. This deal is only available through my link, so make sure you click below at drinklmnt.com/Christy. That's Kristi. Now, back to the video.
Our resting heart rate, on the other hand, this does have correlation to our fitness, and it is something that we can move the needle on. Typically, the lower our resting heart rate is, that is an indication of like our fitness level or our cardiovascular fitness. Resting heart rate is the heartbeat that we've got when we are either just waking up or we basically have no movement going on. And this number is something that we can have an effect on. So the more we work out, the more fitness we have, typically the lower that number is, and we can move that number. So if you're not working out or you're not working out very very much, and maybe your resting heart rate's in the upper 40s or low 50s, and then you start working out, you can get it down to the low 40s or mid 40s. And that is an indication of your health and fitness. It also can be a good indication of how recovered you are, or maybe if you're getting sick. So if you wake up and you normally see that your resting heart rate's in the mid 40s when you wake up in the morning, and then for a couple days straight it's in the upper 50s, that might be an indication that one, maybe you're getting sick, or two, that you're needing a rest day, that you're not recovered and your body's got a lot of strain.
Like Patrick mentioned, resting heart rate is just something great to track. It's something great to know your baseline and your benchmark. So when you start to see deviations either high or low, you can start to ask a few questions of maybe what's going on. So resting heart rate is something that I always am paying attention to. And one way that you can figure out your resting heart rate is right when you wake up in the morning, you can take your two fingers and you can put them on your neck where you feel your pulse, or you can use your wrists. You're gonna count every single heartbeat and do that for 30 seconds and then multiply that by 2. And that's gonna give you the number of beats per minute that your heart is beating. On average, people are usually like 60 to 90. 90 is gonna be on the really high end. 60 is gonna be on the lower end. Those of us who are cardiovascular fit, you're gonna notice maybe 40 to 60 in that heart rate. And the lower we can drive it, that means the more efficient our heart muscle is functioning, because it doesn't have to work as hard to pump blood throughout the body when we're at rest. The key is to make sure that when you do this test and you check to see what is my resting heart rate, do it once or twice. Make sure you accurately counted, kind of like Patrick talked about getting an average for our max heart rate. We also can get an average for our resting heart rate. We want to make sure you do this before you sit up, before you get out of bed, before you go to the bathroom, before you do anything. The first thing you do when you wake up is check that resting heart rate, and that's going to be your most accurate resting heart rate. I love looking at the deviations of it. So I wear a Garmin watch. You can wear that to sleep, and that'll track your metrics also. And it's really fun to look at all the data. People can get super nerded out. I'm one of those people. I love looking at the trends, and I love seeing, okay, what's my average heart rate? Why is it increasing? What have I been doing differently in training? Am I doing too much high intensity? Am I not giving myself enough recovery days? Maybe I'm getting sick. All of these things really play in, or maybe you're in a hard training block. And I would always notice, week 4, week 5, before I'd hit a deload, I'd notice my resting heart rate is climbing. And that's because I'd been working hard for extended periods of time and I hadn't had that deload week yet. So these are all really great metrics and just baselines to pay attention to that can help you and be a little tool in your toolbox so you can get your fittest and feel your best. So if you are really into getting into heart rate when it comes to training, and you are a CrossFit athlete, or maybe you're a runner, I would highly recommend investing in a chest strap. Yes, my watch does my heart rate on my wrist, but the sweatier we get, the more this watch moves around, sometimes it can lose that connection, where when you pair it and you take that chest strap and you stick it right here, it's gonna be a lot more accurate and it's not gonna slide around. I always get it a little bit wet and then suction it to my skin, kind of just tuck it under my sports bra, and that's gonna give me a direct read to my watch while I'm doing a CrossFit workout or while I'm out running. Then if you have grips or anything along those lines, I always get this question, well, what do I do with my grips? Because I need my watch. Chest strap is paired to your watch. Take your watch off, go set it on your bag, and then you don't have to fumble with the watch in the middle of the workout, and you can rely on the chest strap to be transmitting that data to your watch so you can look at your overall heart rate data once you finish the workout. I think it's a lot easier to do more zone 2 style training, not in CrossFit, but on the monostructural, so on the rower, on the bike, out running, things like that. CrossFit, we tend to get those higher intensity spikes, so it's gonna be more useful for that zone 3 to zone 4 to even zone 5 to see how long we're spending in each time zone when we're doing those CrossFit style workouts.
So our resting heart rate is a reflection of our fitness level. Our max heart rate doesn't necessarily tell us anything about our fitness level, but your ability to stay in the upper zones of your max heart rate does have a reflection of how fit you are. If you are not particularly fit, you might only be able to spend maybe 30 seconds in zone 4 before you feel like you're gonna have a heart attack and you've got to kind of pull back on the gas. The fitter you are, the longer you can stay in those upper zones, so that does have a reflection on our fitness. Another important zone is gonna be zone 2. It's probably the most popular zone to work in, and for good reason, because it's extremely beneficial and it's where we build our base, our cardiovascular base from. And if you don't have a chest strap or you don't have a watch, a good way to know if you're in zone 2 is whatever you're doing, whether that's running, biking, whatever kind of cardio, you should be able to hold a conversation. If you're moving at a pace where you are trying to hold a conversation and you feel like you either have to stop or you're gasping for breath, you're working too hard and you need to pull back that effort level. And even though it could feel easy, it's the spot that we largely make the most of our gains from. So we hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have other questions about heart rate, whether that's resting, max, or what its reflection is on your fitness level or health, let us know in the comments. If you have a favorite tracker or anything like that, we'd love to know what it is. Put those in the comments as well.
Just like anything, knowledge is power. So if you've never paid attention to your resting heart rate, you don't even have an idea of what your max heart rate is, how can we go about finding that? First, follow what Patrick said. Get a number, find your max heart rate. Then from there, you can kind of break down those zones. Then you can start to pay attention whether we're wearing a chest strap or a wrist, whatever it is, start to pay attention to how we're feeling in those zones. Do we feel like we're exerting ourselves? Do we feel like we're able to move easy? Just pay attention and start to get the understanding of how we feel in what zones and also what that looks like for our recovery. Over time, you'll really start to notice those deviations that we talked about with resting heart rate. Is your resting heart rate going down as you're doing more aerobic base building? Is your resting heart rate going down as you're starting to feel fitter? Or maybe you're getting sick and all of a sudden it's starting to shoot up. That stuff is valuable information. Knowledge is power. We hope you guys found this video beneficial. If there's any other questions you have about max heart rate, resting heart rate, definitely drop it below. We've toyed around with it a ton in training. We love looking at the numbers. We would love to answer any questions you guys have about that. If there's anything else you have questions on, drop those below as well. Don't forget, smash the like button, and we'll see you in the next video.